Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to once again another episode of It's Me Speaking to You. I am, as always, your ever faithful host, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson, coming to you live and direct from the gateway to the West, excuse me. And today we have round two with some cats I've become very well acquainted with over the last year. Very proud of their work. They are smashing it, ladies and gentlemen. They are growing exponentially with their new podcast, WrestleTalk Live with Joe and Rene. And welcome back to the program, Mr. Rene, the Night Owl Martinez, and his sidekick, his brother-in-arms, Mr. Joe Lance, a.k.a. Nightmare Jones. What's up, gentlemen?
What's up? What's up?
And I failed to hit the Facebook Live.
And back on, man. Great to be back on tonight.
No, that's all right. I did fail to hit the Facebook Live, but we are now live. The introduction has just occurred, Facebook Live, and we are with Joe Lance and Rene Martinez, Nightmare Jones, and the Night Owl back for round two as we talk about, their ever-growing podcast. What's up, fellas?
Not much. Just happy to be here, man. Happy to be here.
Rene?
Yeah, hey, man, absolutely have to echo my co-host's words there. We're just honored to be back on It's Me Speaking to You, man. Great to talk to you, Jay Hollywood, man. We're excited to be here, no doubt about it.
Well, like I said, man, you guys, we met, probably about a year and a half ago, stayed in touch. I saw you guys over at a Dynamo show over in Fenton. What have you guys been up to, man? The last year, I follow you guys. I think it's, always cool to see cool things happen to cool people. You guys haven't just stayed stagnant, man. You guys have been growing. Your show is growing. You guys have tackled those Comic-Cons, which is a great way to market your stuff. Last week you had on Mark Miro, listening to some of the people who cut IDs for your show and promo IDs. You guys got, Ted DiBiase. You guys have a who's who, man, and that's pretty much all gone down in the last year or so, man. What the heck's been going on over there at the old factory?
Dude, it has been.
Well, I'll let Joe. You go ahead and take the lead since you are the original creator of WrestleTalk. So I think Joe's the best person to answer that question.
It has been absolutely mind blowing. I still can't believe the magnitude that WrestleTalk podcast has actually grown to. It grew from having maybe 5 views to now having more than 200 views to interviewing people like the $1 Million Man,
money. Yeah.
Nice.
Everybody's getting praise.
Picture WrestleTalk to be at the level that it's in, and it's only getting bigger. We are not just staying in one area. No, we continue to grow more and more and more, and it's an amazing journey. It really is.
And it's been cool to watch. Well, what do you, Rene, you got, Rene, you're in Kansas City, and Nightmare, you're over there on the East Coast and the West Virginia, around Blue Ridge Mountain Way, Shenandoah River Way, if I'm not mistaken, the old country road song. How do you guys make this work?
Well, Jeff, I think it's hard to kind of pinpoint. What I think, if I had to kind of try to put it in words, is that I've taken some of my business acumen, and I've been very blessed to be in the business world for what we call my shoot job, right? For those of you that not familiar with wrestling terms, because I know It's Me Speaking to You speaks to a large demographic, not only of wrestling fans, just fans of, you guys are talking all sorts of stuff on this wonderful show. But my shoe job, I work as an operations manager for a company in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. So what I've tried to do since joining Joe on the WrestleTalk podcast is not only try to kind of switch up what it was that kind of they were doing originally, which was covering a lot of WWE. I think in some cases, for the most part, the show would, break down a Monday Night Raw throughout the whole first or second hour of the show. And I felt like it was important for us to continue to do that because, there's a core demographic, of WWE fans. But I felt like there's something to be said about independent wrestling. I fell in love with independent wrestling from the very first time that I went to a show, and it was about 2 years ago maybe a little bit over 2 years ago at Pearson Park in Kansas City, Kansas. My very first show was a KCXW show, and about 2 months after that, I went to my very first Metro Pro show, which we all now know no longer exists.
He's no
been
more.
Bought out by the big dog in town, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they've been bought out by the NWL, which is something that I'm really, really excited about.
We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about them here in a little bit.
No doubt. So I fell in love with it, and I said to myself, even before I got in touch with Joe and the previous host, Rick, that this is something that I can really sink my teeth in. It's affordable, it's family friendly, and it gives me the feeling that I can't get at a WWE show. As much as I love going to Raw and SmackDown, Jeff, I mean, I'm a blue-collar guy, and if I'm bringing my 3 kids, I can't afford to have all of us sitting in the front row. So we're sitting way back in section 312, and it just doesn't have the same feel. You know what I mean? So
it's either, hey kids, you guys want to go to college or do you want to go to Raw? Which is it? Because you can easily break the bank going to going to a Raw show or a WWE show. It's definitely expensive. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So to not carry on too long with this, just one answer. I think we tried to encompass like the essence of independent wrestling, and we try to kind of be the voice of the fan. You know what I mean? When it comes to independent and even, WWE wrestling, we just come from a very laid back perspective. And we really, I think, are good at, bringing our joy and our love for pro wrestling to the airwaves. And I think that's why some of the guests that we've had on, they hear us and they talk to us before they actually come on, and they go, yeah, these guys are fans, but they aren't quote-unquote marks. And for people who don't know what that means, I'll let Joe explain what a mark means, because he's a little bit better at the wrestling stuff than I am. I still consider myself to be somewhat of an infant when it comes to wrestling and being a fan of wrestling, but I don't think they see us like that. Joe, can you maybe help explain that a little bit, man, what the mark is, if you could?
A mark is somebody that is like a really huge fan of professional wrestling. You have people, marks that are really big fans, and then you have smart marks who know a lot more about the pro wrestling business. We are what you would call smart marks. We know a little
Smarks.
bit more.
Isn't it the combination of the two terms, smarks?
Smarks.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, right?
I thought that was like a legitimate term.
No, it is. I believe it is. Yeah. So when we reach out to these guys, Jeff, and you're very good at it yourself. I mean, down to earth guy, you reach out to these stars who are probably getting 100 messages a day. Hey, will you do my podcast? Hey, there's a lot of fly-by-night podcasts.
Sure.
And radio shows that just, they got an extra $60 in their bank account every month, and they can sign up for Blog Talk just like we do. The difference is that we try to make sure that our guests understand that, as much as we want to talk to them, we want to make sure that it's mutually beneficial. We've had guys reach out to us that want to just come on, plug their product, and go home.
Right.
And oddly enough, I've always been a sports talk radio guy, and I remember years ago listening to the Jim Rome Show, one of the most successful sports talk shows, I think, probably ever, on CBS Radio. And Alonzo Mourning, the Miami Heat great, came on the show, and he essentially refused to talk anything other than the event that he had coming up. Didn't want to talk about his Miami Heat days. He didn't want to talk about his Hornet days.
Right.
And Jim was like, hey, you know what, Alonzo, as much as I respect you as a player, this has to be mutually beneficial. I mean, we want you to get your shit in, so to speak.
Right.
But, we also, you know what I mean? There also has to be a little bit of a back and forth, and I think that Joe and myself do a pretty good job of establishing that, this is a mutually beneficial relationship, and we need you for content, and you need us for exposure. And I think guys respect that, versus just two fans going, ooh, will you please
right.
So, it'd be like the greatest thing of all, and I think guys kind of maybe don't necessarily respect that so much. So when it comes to booking guys like Tracy Smothers, Dwayne Gill, who will be on the show tomorrow night, Gilbert, and even Mark Merrow, who was a tremendous guest of ours last week, these guys, they talk to us and they go, hey, you know what, these guys, they're fans, but they're not quote-unquote marks, and I think that's helped us tremendously in our journey.
Well, and you come off as more than just fans, you know what I mean? That's almost kind of how I gravitated toward you guys, because as a kid, I grew up just being a fan, you know what I mean? And now watching shoot interviews and just having a deeper understanding of it, it's when you run across somebody who's gone just beyond the fandom, you know what I mean? Listening to you guys' podcast, it's rather in-depth discussions about more than it's just the business as a whole, not just so much who's a good worker, who's a bad worker, but there's a lot of nuance to this business that people don't really quite get or understand. And you guys definitely, it resonates in your show. You guys come off as informed and legit fans. I forget who I talked to, Manny Fernandez and a couple other people. I'm like, I don't mind being called a mark, dude. I will mark out all day for some professional wrestling, because I mean that's what we all grew up as fucking marks, basically. That's why we're I'm a 40-plus-year-old man having a conversation about professional wrestling, because I love it still. You know what I mean? So it's all good.
No, it is all good, and I know Joe wants to jump in here, but I do want to say I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking down on anyone who would be considered a quote-unquote mark. I am also a mark when it comes to, like, I'm sitting there watching, was it, Joe? We were watching Survivor Series, and Goldberg hits Brock Lesnar with the spear 2 or 3 times, picks him up, hits him with the jackhammer, and we're all sitting there going, what in the what? You know what I mean? Like, my neighbors are looking out their window. What the hell is this crazy Mexican doing again? You know what I mean? Like, and so we do have that aspect about us, but we also understand that wrestling is a business, and it's not just entertainment. You know what I mean? It is very much a business, and it's a very successful business on a lot of different levels. And so I guess that's where we keep the balance. We respect it as fans, but also understand that there's a business, and again, I think that's what has earned us at least a certain amount of respect in the community, where people go, hey, these guys are going to call it like it is. We were the first ones, when the fans started complaining about ticket prices going up for the new promotion that we were probably going to end up talking about here in just a minute. We tackled that issue. We talked, okay, what do you guys think about the price? Is it too high? Is it not high enough? How is it, compared to what it was before when it was with Metro or whatever? So we're not afraid to tackle those issues and maybe even ruffle a little bit of feathers if it means that the listeners, that the WrestleTalk family, quote unquote, is going to get to hear about what they want to hear about versus, what the promotions want us to talk about, so to speak.
Joe, got anything to add to that, brother?
Absolutely. I mean, I have to agree with everything that you said. We don't you have a lot of podcasts that basically just talk about the WWE, but we focus more on independent wrestling because we feel that independent wrestling is the backbone to the WWE, because a lot of people don't understand is every single person that you see in the WWE right now at some point in their career has wrestled in the independent wrestling. So we focus more on the independent wrestling side, and I think that's what sets us apart from other, podcasts like the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, or any other the other podcasts that just talk about the WWE style. We talk about, everything from Metro Pro to Kobe Pro here to, to every independent promotion.
Well, and you guys kind of caught up with wrestling. I mean, like I said, I'm a little older, but you guys caught up with wrestling kind of around the Attitude Era. The territories, as they were called, had died. And so there really wasn't as many independent promotions, and Vince really hadn't locked everything down yet. But since he has, I've been heartened by the fact that there are more growing, strong independent promotions that people have options for. It's not just WWE or nothing. You have territories throughout the country. St. Louis, and Missouri in general has just, always been a mecca for wrestling, but throughout the country, there is essentially a territory system there, so people can really begin to learn their craft again and, become, something a WWE might want to look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Back in the old days, you didn't have promotions going into different areas. If you had a wrestling promotion, you stayed in your area. Like you wouldn't see Metro Pro going to like West Virginia or someplace like that. They would stay in Kansas because it was all about the territories, and a lot of that changed when Vince McMahon started to to buy out all of these territories.
The cursed Vince McMahon. What do you guys think about that, man? Was that inevitable? Was like cable TV and the eventual internet going to? I mean, I guess it's kind of weird because I just said there are. I don't know. Was that inevitable that there was going to be like a centralized wrestling company that was like, hey, I have a shitload of money. I can give you a contract, etc. Because a lot of independents and smaller territories, people weren't making that much money, but. When Vince started picking everybody off, was that inevitable, or was that Vince just, being a dick?
Well, contrary to what a lot of people believe, and this is just one man's thinking here, I don't necessarily think it has anything to do with Vince being a dick. I think it has to do with him, wanting to globalize his product. I think he was one of the first guys to have the vision. And if he wasn't the first guy to have the vision, he was the first guy with the vision to have the resources. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, you think about how powerful the NWA was. And it inevitably, got sucked into WWF. It turned into WCW. And we all kind of know that story. And if you don't, WWE Network from 1999.
We'll educate you.
Right. And they're not paying me to say that. But what I'm saying is inevitably everything either grows. Or goes away. Like you alluded to earlier about our show, we're not in the business of staying stagnant because if we're staying stagnant, then we're falling behind. So our goal is to continue to grow. When we had our very, very first big guest, whom I think was the $1 Million Man, Teddy DiBiase, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, was that our first major WWE Hall of Fame guest that we ever had?
Yes, I believe so. And then
we had the Animal and the Road Warrior Animal with Mark. We've had a pretty decent list of those guys. But if we would have said, "Hey, we got the Ted, we're done,"
right.
We wouldn't be on It's Me Speaking to You.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
So, no. And again, it's an honor. But ultimately, there's a lot of guys with vision, but there's not so many people with resources. And when you can put those two together, inevitably everything gets commercialized. Jeff, I know you can speak to this. Hip hop was Curtis Blow out in New York with a couple of friends at a nightclub, and somebody said, "Hey, you should put that on a tape." And then from Curtis Blow, and we got some, and then everybody, we got Rakim, and then
Grandmaster Flash,
Tupac, Biggie, of course, Grandmaster Flash, of course, and I'm skipping, a lot of people running
sure,
or whatever.
I feel you. Yeah.
But everything, even saggy pants got popular. You know what I mean? Like everything gets commercialized eventually because there's always somebody there who not only has the vision but the resources to capitalize on it. Do I think it's a good or a bad thing? I think wrestling being globalized is a great thing. Do I think it hurts some of the smaller promotions? Yeah, absolutely. But there's a resurgence, and that's what makes us excited because we're not stuck just covering WWE. Since there's this resurgence of independence with, House of Hardcore, Maryland Championship Wrestling, AAW out of Chicago. You've got CWE in Canada, and now the NWL here in the Midwest. It's great for us to not only be able to have to cover WWE all the time, but then we get to cover some of the local stuff where some of these guys end up going to WWE. A little earlier today, I was watching a match with Tony Nese, thanks to my buddy Joe on House of Hardcore. This was a match from like a year and a half ago, and now Tony Nese is part of the cruiserweights for Raw. So it's kind of cool to see the guy that you saw, in your backyard, so to speak. A year later, he's up on the big show. It's pretty fucking cool.
Well, and that's kind of what we alluded to. That's what these independents are basically the old school territories are absolutely integral for a lot of these young guys for places to go to learn their craft. So, honestly, dude, if you think about what's going on right now in Missouri, let's just say Missouri, and Missouri's always been a huge wrestling spot.
It has.
What is I don't know how to pronounce his last name, and I don't want to massacre it. Is Major Bisden the new Vince of the territory, like buying up the big stars of the area, even outside of the Midwest, and creating different names, etc. Is that is he picking up clues from Vince?
Joe, I'll let you tackle that one first.
I think that in a way he is because he's getting
He has the resources, like you mentioned. Sorry to cut you off.
He does. He does have the resources, and he is buying, buying some of the best wrestlers in the area, and so it's going to make a really, really good promotion. I wish I was able to be there so I could actually see it. I'm kind of jealous of Renee because he's going to be able to go see the all this promotion. So yeah, it's.
I just seemed to me when I start seeing some of what was going down, and I'm not saying this to knock his hustle at all because Vince is a genius. And so, in St. Louis, in Missouri, at large has always been a huge mecca for wrestling. So if you were going to kind of Vince an area, Missouri would definitely be one. And, he's definitely assembled a pretty strong roster. And I'm very anxious to see how this plays out because he's throwing it back, or they are throwing it back. They're taking it back to that old school. You know what I mean? Not to mean it all has to be completely old school, but I mean that stuff worked for a reason, man. And so we'll see how that new promotion plays out. I'm quite anxious.
Right, and I think we all are, and I know you should be jealous too because there's a lot going on over here when it comes to wrestling, and I want to make sure I throw this out there. I mean, Kansas City is no slouch when it comes to wrestling history. I believe Ric Flair won his first ever NWA championship.
He did.
Right here in good old Memorial Hall in Kansas City
against Dusty.
But to answer your question, Jeff, I think so. I think Major and his party and his team are essentially a very much smaller version right now of what WWF was back in the late 70s and early 80s. The difference is that I think that there's a certain amount of respect that's being paid to some of these smaller promotions. Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys, Pierre Abernathy being one of those guys, Jeremy White are all being allowed to kind of say their goodbyes, and make their last rounds and pay respect to those fans that were loyal to them at St. Louis Anarchy or Metro Pro Wrestling or whatever it would be. And so I think that though it is very, very similar, and I don't know if it'll immediately be global, but I think it'll be regional, at least within the first 5 years, encompassing the majority of the Midwest, maybe even some of the South. I think that as long as it continues to work that way, where there's a certain amount of respect being paid to the previous regime, whether it be, again, at, Anarchy or Metro, I think it's all good.
You're right. It hasn't been any kind of hostile takeovers like, kind of Vince did.
No.
Yeah.
It hasn't been. And that kind of thing breeds a lot of resentment, I think.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Not only amongst the workers, but amongst the fans. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of people out there with St. Louis Anarchy T-shirts and with Metro Pro T-shirts that could have easily felt like, hey, this is being taken away from us. But no. NWO is saying, come on, join us.
Right.
We're gonna take your promotion and we're gonna stick please don't take this in a bad way, but we're gonna stick a steroid needle in it and make it better. And it's all your favorite guys. We're gonna repackage them, give them an opportunity to try something a little bit different, but it's all your favorites. It's Dirty Jake Dirt, Jack Foster. It's the Regal Twins now, the Royal Twins. You're getting all the same guys
Des Wellston.
We're just going to give them a better stage and a better presentation and more importantly, I think probably a better venue and more accessibility.
I'll be anxious to see what that production looks like. I don't know if they will, keep it.
It's going to be sick, bro.
Yeah.
It's going to be sick.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they have advertisement all over the radio here in St. Louis, and I'm sure in Kansas City they have flyers up in Scott Trade Center. Like the dude has definitely put his foot in the marketing strategy. But like I said, man, we've seen things that are all style and no substance. So we will see. Like I said, he's assembling a sick roster. The guys I've met from there, they have experience with WWE. So I mean, they're no slouches. And like you said, one of them, Chris Goff, is a former head of Metro Pro. So they've assembled a great team, a lot of great guys over there, and gals. And I'm very excited to see, man, because like I said, St. Louis and Missouri has always been the shit when it comes to professional wrestling, going back, like you said, the old NWA days, Sam Muchnick right out of St. Louis and the Keel, and yeah, it's should be cool. I'm anxious.
Yeah,
man.
And I'll tell you what. Here's what I think is really exciting. I mean, you've got not only guys, because I've heard the word poached And I don't necessarily think that's – I mean, guys are just getting a better opportunity. If you're in
Exactly.
AAA and you get called up to the majors, are you not going to go? You know?
Right. Right.
As much as I love the Saskatchewan Royals, I'd rather be on the Kansas City Royals. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. But they pulled guys from Texas, you know, and they pulled guys from Omaha, and they pulled guys from Iowa, you know, to come in, and they're really trying to create like this. And I love the fact that it's kind of like the beacon of it is in Kansas City, because it's truly the middle of the country. So all these people are kind of converging on what I consider to be the heartland city of the United States, which is Kansas City. And we all kind of just get to experience it as fans. And then for guys like you and for us, we also get to cover it. So we actually get to talk to some of these guys. And not to kind of spoil anything here, but next week, the Wednesday before the very first ever NWL show, we are in talk with some of the brass over there, and we're going to be doing a very special show that's going to be somewhat of a lead up to the first NWL show, and we hope to do the same thing for our friends over at NWSTL. So nothing set in stone. Okay?
Right.
Just some verbal agreements back and forth, but definitely, you know, make sure you guys check us out. I mean, we're having a tremendous interview tomorrow. Tom Simon, for anybody in St. Louis, who I know a lot of St. Louis people listen to this show, Tom Simon, who is a ref and announcing legend in the St. Louis area, and then, of course, Dwayne Gill, you know, the legendary job from the Attitude Era will be on the show tomorrow.
Gilbert.
Yeah, I can only imagine what this show tomorrow is going to be like. But, yeah, dude, I mean, it's great for us, Jeff, because, as you know, and you kind of told me this, you know, content is king. You know, you got to make sure you're bringing something fresh to the table every day. You know, I love pasta, but I'm not going to eat pasta every day.
Right.
I mean?
You got to switch it up.
You got to bring something fresh every day, you know, and that's what we try to do for the fans out there.
Well, you know, I think, you know, with this promotion looking as strong as it is, man, I think if they play their cards right, I think, man, and I've just thought this to myself, I think WWE is going to begin doing what the UFC does with their Fight Pass. On the WWE network, they're going to start not buying the big stars from different locations. They're going to start allowing these promotions to be on WWE network, like an NWL or like a promotion you set out of Chicago. Some of the bigger ones they're going to start getting shine on the WWE network. I know it sounds crazy, but this is exactly what Dana White does on the UFC Fight Pass. He checks out a lot
of.
You
better copyright that, bro. It sounds like a good idea.
You know what's hilarious, brother? I sent this to Triple H as well as Stephanie about 6 months ago. And if you've paid attention to the WWE news and shit, they've already said they're floating this. I'm not saying I did it, but after I did that, they've mentioned that they're floating the idea of putting other independent promotions on their network. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, you know, they better cut that check.
Yeah, right. Speaking of it, man, I mean, this is obviously the standard. Joe Lance, what's going on in WWE right now, man? I mean, the women's titles being traded back and forth like a fat doobie. Not that I condone that and not that I frown upon it, but you know what I mean? It's just being traded, you know what I mean? And it's taking away the meaning from it. What's going on? We got Goldberg about to, you know, beat Brock in 10 seconds. What the hell's going on over there, Joe Lance? I need answers.
You know, I've been asking myself the same question. Like, you know, speaking of the women's title, you know, it really didn't make any sense to me why you would have Sasha Banks beat Charlotte to lose to her at the next pay-per-view and then beat her on Monday Night Raw and then lose at the next pay-per-view. And in the past couple months, Charlotte has been like a four-time women's champion. And that's just...
That's when listening to you guys' show the other day, I made the joke. I was like, they're trying to make Charlotte the 16-time world champion in a year.
In
it's
1 year.
It's insane.
It really does seem like it. And I'm glad that last Monday they started the whole Charlotte and Bayley. So hopefully at some point we'll see Bayley as the champion. I just really hope that it's not Bayley wins it on Monday Night Raw and then at the next pay-per-view Charlotte beats her, because I'm going to be really mad that happened.
I find it just, and I'm not one of the, I mean, I'm trying not to be one of them smarks, but I mean, they have to know that just lowers the value of the belt. Like, and I'm not saying you got to pull the demolition or whatever, you know, have the title for 10 years or whatever, but it's just like, I don't know. That's too much back and forth, man. That's too much. I mean, if it was a UFC like real fighting, I get it. But if you're trying to get people to invest in the story and the belt and really dig the belt, taking it off the champ every 2 seconds is just not the rip, in my humble.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I'll jump in and say this. I don't necessarily agree with you guys for this reason. I'm not.
That's it. Show's over. Thanks for coming, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another episode.
Listen, hey, that's what I said, bro. We shoot from the hip. So
I'm just fucking with you.
Here's kind of my perspective, and I'll keep it short and sweet. There is about a 50-50 split, I think, amongst fans when it comes to Charlotte and Sasha. And that is great for business.
As far as what? As far as fan, like, who digs who?
Well, I mean, there's like about 50% of the crowd that is huge for Sasha.
Right.
And there's about 50% of the crowd that is huge for Charlotte. And I think on any given day, it can go 60-40 either way. You know what I mean? It just depends what city they're in.
Right.
What I think is what better way to build a rivalry that will last for 12 or 15 years, which is probably what this rivalry is going to last, than to have them do a bunch of this bulk stuff right early, like we've had, and then take a break from it for a year and a half or two, and then go back to it. And then by the time you get to the tail end, now you're talking about, a 10-time women's champion versus a 9-time women's champion.
I got the feeling of them trying to force a Ric Flair Harley Race type feud.
Exactly. But here's the thing, Jeff. It's not forced because these women are the equivalent of those two, even though it's very early in their careers. Of those two guys, they're both very talented on the mic, though Sasha probably not quite as good as Charlotte.
No.
Both on the mic and in the ring.
No.
Okay? I think that eventually...
No, you know what, Rene? I agree. I agree with you, but I think they are... this is all subjective, but I think you're absolutely correct in building this rivalry, and it could be a long-term one, and it could be a huge, like, Flair-type Harley Race.
Stay healthy.
But I think they are with the switching of the belt all the damn time. That's too damn much, dude. In this past year, I mean, not to say it has to be like Flair Race or Dusty Flair. They didn't switch it that much back then. I mean, and again, Flair, you think of the champion as the champion who's, had it for a long time, not just I don't know, man. When you lose it like that,
but Jeff, when they're that even, how would it look to have Charlotte win 3 or 4 consecutive times over Sasha, or the other way around? It would take something away from the other star.
Of course.
So you have to kind of have it go back and forth if you're going to continue to put them in the ring against each other, because if one gets too much of advantage over the other one, what happens then? Well, obviously WWE has decided that Charlotte is better than Sasha, but now whenever they face off, you don't know who's going to win. I mean, can you definitively say that the next time that they face off, Sasha's going to win? You can't. You think now because it's kind of a back and forth, but you can't be sure.
That's what I say. Switch the programs up a little bit more frequently. Like they should have given her a Bailey a little sooner. Let Sasha go off and do something with a Nia Jax for a minute and maybe beat her like oh shit and then come back to fate. I don't know. Just the back and forth. Whatever. We can agree.
Maybe they're a month late. Maybe, and I'll give you that. Maybe they're a month or two late on it, but they're not a year off. You know what I mean? I think maybe they did it a little bit too long. Maybe they did it one match too long. I mean, because they did the cage match. And they did
this is just the nature of the new wrestling business, dude. The Intercontinental Champ. I mean, look at The Miz. It flipped around between him and who was it that for a hot second? Ziggler. I mean, so maybe that's just
and
like
Dean had it for a little bit. I mean, it's gone around way too much.
I mean, like I said, you're never going to see the Bob Backlund holding the belt for 8 years.
This before we
what's that?
We change the subject. I want to see if you can agree with this. Would you agree that the women's title has more value now than it has maybe in the last 10 or 15 years?
Ever, bro. Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, before they framed it in a Divas title.
Lita and Trish, that was kind of a big deal, too.
Yeah, I mean, no, they were. But, I mean, and honestly, those gals needed to not have a fucking Divas title because them chicks were putting in work. Remember, like, Jackie and, some of them chicks.
Yeah, Jacqueline.
I mean, they were beasts, dude, and they were putting in work, so this Diva shit really undermined, how good they were. That's why it's cool. I mean, now you can't deny it, man. Look at Charlotte Flair doing freaking corkscrew moonsault off the top rope to the floor. Come on, dude. I talked to Ric Flair's co-host of his show, Conrad Thompson of the Ric Flair Show, and I'm like, bro, how is she going to wind up Cactus Jack, like, in a few years, just high spot after like those kind of high spots? And he's like, no way, dude. She's a trained gymnast. She doesn't fall and injure herself. She falls like a freaking feather every time. I'm like, you got a point, but whew, those are some crazy high spots that they're doing, man.
Yeah, absolutely they are. Now, I know, Joe, when we do our little shoot and shout segment on our show, which is like, 60 seconds for you to whine and complain, I know that Joe doesn't like the title switching, but, I mean, I try to not be a super short-sighted fan and maybe think 3 to 5 years in the future. I think that these titles switching back and forth, at least right now, is going to end up having a huge payoff. I mean, the women have main evented a pay-per-view recently, and they've main evented a couple of different Raws. So
they main evented the Hell in a Cell. That was big, dude. Yeah,
it's huge. So whether you like the title switching or not, it's working. It's got us talking, and here we are, spending 5 minutes on it.
True. No, absolutely. Mission accomplished. In the short term, but like long term, it's just like when they bill it like a heavyweight championship match, do you give a shit? Because you're just like, either one's gonna win. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. Like I said, back in the day when the heavyweight title was on the line, before I knew it was a freaking work, like, you gave a shit, man. And when Ric Flair lost to whomever it was, Ricky Steamboat, Ronnie Garvin, it was big, dude.
No, I seen people crying, bro, when Sasha lost it this last time.
Right.
There was like legit people.
That's
they
awesome.
were crying.
That's awesome.
I know Joe was. I had to send Joe a wet nap or whatever. But I mean, there's people emotionally that maybe not us. Maybe we're jaded a little bit. But I know that there was people that were really legit hurt and pissed off, and people really hate Charlotte now.
Charlotte is absolutely.
Really, I said it on my Twitter. I said on my Twitter the other night. There's debate as to whether or not The Miz is the best heel in wrestling right now. Maybe. I think he could be. There's no debate as to who the in wrestling or bad girl in wrestling is, and that there's no doubt that it's Charlotte.
She
couldn't be that without the belt.
I mean, she would you say she couldn't be that without the belt? Did you say she could not be that without the belt? Who'd we lose? Did we lose somebody? What happened?
You get what I mean by that?
Oh, I lost somebody. Joe, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. My bad. We had a brief glitch. Restate what you just said there, Rene.
Oh no, what I'm saying is I think that the dynamic of Sasha chasing Charlotte lends itself more to her being a babyface, and Charlotte having the championship lends itself more to her being, the top female heel in wrestling right now.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, and she's killing it. Like I hate to say she's better than her dad, dude, but she's freaking good, man. She's really really good.
More wrestler in my opinion than her dad.
But even I mean her
as far as
her heel work. I mean, yeah, Rick, you can't really top an old school Ric Flair promo, dude. It's just like, wow, pass the cocaine, brother. It's like, what the fuck?
Rock, just a couple guys, but.
So what I mean, what else? I mean, some of the other stuff that's been a little bit more controversial. The Brock Lesnar Goldberg thing, you mentioned it a little bit ago. I guess people have the internet has died down and people aren't as freaked out about it. But again, Brock Lesnar, legitimate badass, beats Mark Hunt, quote unquote beats, even though he's got to the gills, but still beats a legitimate badass and Mark Hunt, former UFC champion, whatever, and then. This 50-year-old guy, you know what I mean? It just is like, what? All right. I thought Brock was the freaking unstoppable.
A lot of people were mad at that, and I think that the reason why they were mad about that was because it really didn't make any sense. If you had a guy that is billed as a beast, the guy that destroyed John Cena, the guy that ended the Undertaker's streak, the guy that busted Randy Orton open at the pay-per-view the last time he wrestled before.
Devastating fashion.
And then he gets into the ring with Goldberg, who hasn't wrestled in over 10 years, and he gets beat in 10 seconds? He gets beat in like 3 minutes easily. No, it didn't really make any sense. I think it really pissed off a lot of people, But then again, it actually worked because now more people are going to want to watch the Royal Rumble to see what happened at the Royal Rumble.
Well, now that, I mean, it's going to I would think it'd be the same if now he actually has time to train. And only thing I could see that put an asterisk by that whole beatdown or whatever he did to Brock was, within the nuance of the moves here, ladies and gentlemen, Brock was barely just turning around and caught with the first spear as opposed to they battled. You know what I mean? It was kind of this accidental first spear, which then set up the second spear, which I don't know. Maybe that doesn't mean shit in the real world, but not the real world.
Can I tell you guys a secret? Neither of those guys can wrestle worth a drizzling shit. That's why they did that. Bro, listen. You go and you listen to Kevin Nash on one of his U-shoots talk about Goldberg as a wrestler. There's a reason he comes in, spears people, jackhammers, and then goes home. Because, oh my goodness, bro, neither of them. Listen, Brock Lesnar could beat the crap out of 99% of people on this planet, but when it comes to actual pro wrestling, I don't know if he can really carry a match. And we all know that Goldberg can't because we saw it.
No.
For 7.5 or 8 years at WCW. So what did WWE do? They did the only thing they could do. You protect them. Now you're going to put them into the Royal Rumble with 30 other guys. Have a couple of high spots in there. What do? You protect them, and that's how you protect a guy who has a name.
Accentuate the strengths and hide the weaknesses.
That's it, bro. And we all of us know that that's exactly why they did it. And of course there was that that wave that happened amongst the fans afterward where everyone's going, what the hell is Vince doing? And once again, the evil genius is one step ahead of us. Nobody expected that. Nobody did.
I certainly didn't.
We love wrestling because you never know.
Yeah.
You know?
I was definitely, I mean, I don't know if you know me long enough. Wrestling nights and fight nights, I kind of turn into a different person and tend to lose my shit. And that was one of those nights I was losing my shit in my living room. So it was just
that makes 3 of us.
Oh, dude. No more than the most I've ever lost my shit as a grown adult is when Sting showed up at the Survivor Series in St. Louis, and I'm 50 yards away, just losing my mind. It was. I think I still have a video of it somewhere, but just unglued. I had 3 or 4 people with me, just coming unglued at the old Scott Trade Center.
I'll tell you what, that actually happened to me recently. It was about 3 years ago, before Hogan got exiled from WWE again. They were having kind of like a Hulk Hogan birthday party thing in the ring. And, Nash and Razor and I forgot who else was in the ring. I mean, it was all these legends. Piper was in there. May God rest his soul.
Pipes.
There was a lot of legends in the ring. And then you thought it was this warm moment. And then the Brock Lesnar music hits. And I was like, oh, man, I don't know what it was, man. I was just, so excited. I was like, who could ruin the mood more right now than Brock Lesnar? And it was just, perfect timing. I lost my crap. My wife was looking at me like, what are you, 12 years old? And I literally didn't feel like that because I didn't expect it, dude. And he went in. I mean, and you guys can all look that up on YouTube, but it was just one of those moments. And oddly enough, wrestling still does that for me, and I know it does it for Joe, and that's kind of what we try to bring across when we do the show.
I mean, it's no different. I mean, people call it a soap opera for men. I mean, that's all it is. They're characters. It's you go pay for a movie to go watch, you go watch Batman or Doctor Strange or whatever the fuck. It's not real. So it's when you respond to what they're doing, it's supposed to happen that way. They're doing shit to elicit a response. I'm responding. You got to be able to have
they're
some
so
little vices
Jeff,
to.
Huh?
No, yeah, they're great.
I mean, even local shows, if you go to enough of them on a regular basis, they'll get you, man. You'll really start hating some of the guys. You know what I mean? You really will start.
Dude,
for me, it's Ace Steel.
There was
Ace Steel at Metro.
I don't know who that is.
One of the guys, he grew up and he actually helped train CM Punk and Colt Cabana. Fortunate enough to see him in action quite a few times at Metro. Man, every time he came out, I was like, this guy is legitimately a freaking jerk. And you start to kind of develop this anger towards these guys, even though it's the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
Comes out, calls me fat. Dude, I know I'm fat. I just don't want him calling me fat. You know what I mean? It's incredible how these guys are able to pull that out of you. I think Jake the Snake Roberts said it best a couple of years ago at his Hall of Fame induction. He said, there's nothing more incredible than like feeling a little bit like God and being able to mind F these people. Like you really make them think that you're this jerk and they really don't like you. Guys have gotten chased out of town, man. Like, wrestling will do that for people.
Oh, no, dude. I just ordered Mid-Atlantic Memories. If you want to go back to the Jim Crockett days, online, and the movie starts out with a story of how Ole Anderson was freaking cut deep across his chest, like big time, by this old motherfucker, because he just, him and Gene Anderson were just that hardcore, and people believe that much. I mean, yeah, riots have been started. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, man. People, the way they are able to mindfuck people and talk people into buildings to either watch them get their ass kicked or watch them kick somebody's ass, I've always found to be quite genius, quite frankly, because, it's pretty strong, pretty strong tool to have in your. But not everybody could do it. You know what I mean? A lot of those guys were great promos and just some people sucked and couldn't do it. But like your Ric Flairs, your Roddy Pipers, your Dusty Rhodes, come on, your Rocks, forget about
it. No, I think the Miz in modern day, I think, does a great job of making you hate him. I mean, was it last week, Joe, where said something to one of the announcers, Renee Young, about her sleeping with Dean Ambrose? I'm like, are they pulling the PG tag off this thing nice and slow? Like, what are they doing? I don't know if you picked up on that, Jeff.
I didn't. We had another hiccup in the connection. Should be getting them back momentarily. Bloop, 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 bloop. There they are. Nope.
Hey, I'm here. We're here, brother. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah. There
I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's just my interweb. My interweb tends to do that sometimes. It's all right.
It's all good, man. No.
Well, what do you guys got?
Oh,
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That the Miz did a tremendous job of doing that last week when he said something to Renee Young about her sleeping with Dean Ambrose, which, by all accounts, that's really happening. So I kind of asked myself, and Joe kind of hit me up afterwards. He's like, dude, are they pulling the PG tag off this thing and making it PG-13? I was like, I don't know. I sure hope so. It should make it a lot more entertaining.
Well, with that new era, that's what they were supposed to be doing, not necessarily back to the Attitude Era, but they're supposed to start. Yeah, they're supposed to spice it up a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. What do you guys got coming up, man? I know I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. Joe, I know you guys have, like you said, you got another big show coming on. You guys do your shows Wednesday night. Well, just let everybody know who you got coming on tomorrow, and when can they catch the WrestleTalk podcast with Joe and Renee?
Tomorrow we have Terrain Gill and who else do
Tom Simon.
We have the big time announcer.
Tom Simon, who your listeners in St. Louis will definitely recognize that name. Ref, promoter, and most known as an announcer, basically all throughout the St. Louis and really Midwest area. The guy's been in the business for over 30 years. That's definitely going to be a lot of fun.
Well, cool, man. You guys, like I said, have been killing it. So 2017, I mean, I don't want to make you bust out, any spoilers. What do you guys have in store for 2017, my man?
We have a spoiler for you.
Go ahead, bring it.
We have a tremendous spoiler for you. Not only are we working on doing 2 huge shows before the NWL STL and the NWL KC shows, January 25th, we have confirmed one of the top comedians in the East Coast, who is also a huge wrestling fan. You might have seen his video a couple of months ago. He does his comedy act and hits another comedian with the Stone Cold Stunner, drinks beers or whatever. A guy by the name of Matt Light and a little guy by the name of Rob Van Dam are going to be made in Kansas City for a one-night-only comedy show that Tuesday after, I believe, the Royal Rumble. So look that up on your calendars and mark it off. So Light. And we're also going to have them on the show the Wednesday before the show. So that is huge for us. RVD is very, very relevant. He's the guy that everybody knows, whether you're an Attitude Era fan or you're a modern-day fan, because he was in action with WWE about 3 or 4 years ago. So yeah.
Or even going back to the ECW days, man. He's an ECW legend for sure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody remembers those matches he had with Zabu and some of the matches with, Jerry Lynn and just classic stuff, man. So, yeah, we're excited. We actually just got confirmation last week that RVD is going to be joining us. And we got a couple other things coming up that aren't 100% for sure, but that one, God willing, he'll join us. And we definitely want to make sure everybody takes the time to check us out, but also that comedy show. If you hit us up on Facebook, we have an event, kind of link there. And you can get all the information pertaining to his live appearance, I believe, at the Riot Room in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. So make sure you guys check us out because we're going to be out there partying before and after the show. And I know RVD's a really cool and laid-back guy, so make sure you come out and join us and be sure to listen to the show tomorrow. I mean, we got Gilbert on for God's sake.
Gilbert. That's what's up, man. That's super what's up.
Great
And I
guy,
mean,
man.
I'm anxious to see what you guys have for 2017, and I know you guys are going to be all over the National Wrestling League, and I'll be anxious to see how all of that pans out, dude, because those guys look like they're really starting to put it down here in the state of Missouri. Any shout-outs?
No doubt. Jeff, if you would have, I did want to. I was going to ask you to do a couple shout-outs.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Last year. Man, I want to make sure that I go out of my way to do this. Nothing would have been possible without support of our family, our friends, guys like you, guys like Lou Roberts, guys like Jordan Smiley, Chris Goff, and the list goes on and on, Danny Duggan, Justin Elijah. But I want to make sure that I shout out some of the businesses that support us. KCK Dental Professionals in Kansas City, Kansas. Creative Threat Films, they're a documentary company. They did the Metro Pro documentary, The Masked Saint, the book, available on Amazon.com. It's a great movie, also on Netflix. MarkMarrow.com, who was just on the show last week. MarkMarrow.com, ThinkPause.com. The guy, he didn't go into a lot of the stuff that he talks about with Champions of Choice. He was just, we talk wrestling for the most part, but man, if you get a chance, check out Mark Merrill on YouTube. Some of the stuff that he talks about will bring you to tears, man.
Yeah, I've seen some of his videos. Yeah.
He's amazing. And then we have Canadian Wrestling Elite, CWE, out of Canada. Danny Duggan, those guys do a great job for us. And then we have Natsucon, where we were at last year. I know, Jeff, we're going to drag you out to that next year.
I'm down, man. I'm down.
Year, right? 2017. And then last but not least, GWF, a company that's kind of getting right back on its feet here in the Kansas City area. Our man Justin was on the show also last week, and they're looking to make some big moves here in the Kansas City area and in the Midwest, despite, some of the other bigger companies like NWO coming around. I think some of the smaller ones are really looking to sink their teeth into the market and continue to make an impact. So well, actually, we shouted out our sponsors, bro, because we really couldn't do what we do without them, man, no doubt. So, Joe, go ahead, man.
I just want to shout out the same people. Want to shout out our fans. Shout out our families. I want to shout out Jeff for having us on to his show tonight. I mean, it's amazing to see where we have gone and what we're going to be going to next year. Like, it's just amazing. Hopefully one year we will be at WrestleMania. That would be awesome. That is my dream, to be at WrestleMania. That would be awesome.
Well, brother, like my man, old school BET announcer Donnie Simpson said, shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you will still be among the stars. You guys, it all starts with belief, man. It all starts with belief, and you guys definitely, you know what I mean? Just keep believing, brother, and I have your back way, way back. Not way back like I ain't got your back. I got your back like we down like 4 flat tires, baby, and I got you, man. So you guys just keep growing, keep doing your thing. I know 2017 is just going to be more of you guys doing your thing, man, and I will be definitely along for the ride. Mr. Joe Lance, a.k.a. Nightmare Jones, and Rene Martinez, a.k.a. the Night Owl, bringing the pain, coming back for round 2 on It's Me Speaking to You, and you guys are always, always welcome, brother. Peace and all that love, and Happy New Year. And if you guys, give me that shout-out for where we can find the show, guys, and when it's on.
Yeah, no doubt. WrestleTalkPodcast.com, WrestleTalkPodcast.com. You can listen live there on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and you can listen to our old shows. We've got blogs, we've got original memes and all kinds of stuff going on over there. And I can't leave without saying 2 last things. One, WWE Universe Worldwide Chapter, greatest fantasy wrestling group on the planet. Got to shout those guys out because they're kind of one of the pillars of what we do. And then, of course, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, man. I forgot my God, man. You know, I'm a Christian or whatever.
Hey, it's
shout
all
out
good.
to the believers and those who don't.
You going to hell.
Thank
you
you
going to
Jeff, for the
burn.
opportunity, sir.
Yeah.
You're going to burn.
Just joke.
Take it back to the old school. Let them burn, baby. But, hey, Jeff, man, thank you, bro. It's always an honor and a pleasure. And if you ever need a ride from the airport, you know who to call, cuz.
hey, that is no joke, man. There's no sense. I will say that story, man. That I had a transportation issue when I went to handle a little bit of business in Kansas City, and the ride who was supposed to be there did not show up, and I don't really know anybody in Kansas City, and I called this brother. It was pretty late at night, man, and we wound up actually hanging out, having a couple of beers and talking a little life, a little wrestling. And I thank you so much, Rene Martinez, for swooping in with the S on your chest to help your boy out, man. That was beyond appreciated, and forever in your debt, my friend.
Hey, you got it, man. But it wasn't an S, it was a C, bro. Super Chico.
Yeah.
Call me, bro.
That's what's up, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the host of the WrestleTalk live podcast with Joe Lant and Rene Martinez, and I have, of course, been your host, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson, a.k.a. J. Hollywood in the wrestling world. You guys, peace and all that love. Have a very happy new year, and please be safe out on them streets, because it can get dangerous when people out there imbibing and trying to enjoy the new year. So everyone be safe. Love y'all. Take care.